Okay, let's unpack this. You've sent us excerpts from this really fascinating fictional text, The Chronomancer's Wealth. And it kind of drops us into the year 2476 with this inventor, Gabriel Wren. He pulls off something huge, creating a time machine, the chronosphere.
Right, the chronosphere.
So our mission here, as we dive into this, is to really get what drives Wren, how he actually manages to pile up wealth and power, skipping across different eras.
And crucially, the consequences, what happens because of all this meddling.
Exactly. The text lays out his initial drive, this need for recognition for wealth.
Yeah.
Even though he's already a big scientific success.
Yeah, that's interesting in itself, isn't it? That the science wasn't enough.
Right. Then comes the chronosphere breakthrough and this critical need for unturnium, is that right?
Unturnium, yes. That's the power source. Super rare, apparently, with unique temporal properties.
Okay, so that need kicks off his big plan.
Yeah.
Travel to the past to get this stuff. Yeah, let's dive straight into how this actually unfolds.
Well, what's interesting right from the get-go is that Wren's scientific wins, they just aren't enough for him personally.
Yeah.
He's already reached a peak most would dream of, but there's still this hunger for more. Recognition, legacy, and yeah, definitely wealth.
So the unturnium isn't just fuel.
No, exactly. The text describes it as having these unique temporal energy properties, vital for the chronosphere. But for Wren, it's the key. The key to unlocking time travel, yes, but also these really personal ambitions.
Oh,
It shows how a huge invention can get tangled up with someone's deep-seated desires for influence, for money.
suggests that even massive scientific achievement doesn't always scratch that itch for recognition or wealth.
Precisely.
Okay, so the chronosphere, this device using some kind of advanced temporal displacement tech, the text says it's working. And Wren's first move, pure ambition.
No messing around?
No. He doesn't just go look at dinosaurs. He targets the Roman Empire around 1 BCE.
Specific choice.
Very. And what really jumps out is his immediate focus. Build wealth. Just observing. Not enough. He wants to actively shape things for his own benefit.
And how does he do that?
He starts manipulating ancient markets. Things like wine, pottery, textiles. And he's armed with the ultimate cheat sheet, knowing what the future holds.
It's like having a perfect stock ticker for history.
Totally. Future knowledge becomes this incredible leverage in the past. Shows the raw power of just knowing more than anyone else.
Yeah, and what's really notable isn't just that he does it, but how easily it seems to work. His knowledge of future trends, it acts like, supercharged currency back then. But the story says he goes beyond just trading, right?
Yeah, exactly. He introduces advanced farming techniques, better construction methods. That's a serious power play.
So it's not just market manipulation, it's technological disruption almost.
Kind of, yeah. It lets him pile up wealth incredibly fast and build influence. He ends up advising the emperor.
Wow, okay. So knowledge, particularly centuries ahead knowledge, becomes this unmatched tool for getting rich and getting powerful.
It's pretty remarkable how quickly he goes from, nobody to this key player in a massive historical empire. The text really hits hard on the speed and scale of his wealth gain.
And how embedded he becomes in that Roman power structure.
Deeply. But like you said, this isn't the end game for him. It's just a step.
Just a stepping stone.
So this first jump,
Yeah.
this interference in the past, what questions does that raise for you about power and knowledge across time?
Well, this initial success, it really makes you think about how power is relative, In 1 BCE, better farming, huge influence. What's the equivalent lever in the far, far future?
Good question.
His early wins are all about exploiting this massive knowledge gap. Is that strategy going to keep working, especially in a society that might be way more advanced than even he is?
Right. Can he keep finding those gaps?
And it also makes you wonder about unintended consequences, even this early on. Is tweaking the Roman economy harmless? Or does it start a chain reaction, little ripples that get bigger later?
That's a crucial point. Ripples. And speaking of later, Wren's next jump, he goes way forward. Year 3176, a hypertech utopia.
Okay, so a totally different playground.
Totally. And here's where it gets really interesting. You'd think in this super advanced future, someone from 2476 wouldn't have much edge, right?
You might assume that, yeah.
But Wren finds vulnerabilities. Complacency, maybe?
Yeah.
Concentrated power. And his old wealth. The stuff he got in Rome by using future knowledge.
That gives him a way in.
Exactly. It gives him the capital, the entry point into this future society. And a key detail here, he zeroes in on biotech, specifically indefinite life extension.
Ooh, okay. So he sees the long game there, the ultimate value.
Clearly, he gets its future value, its potential.
What's really insightful there is Wren's adaptability. He's not just rinsing and repeating his Roman strategy.
Yeah.
He analyzes this future society, finds its weak spots, its structures, and then invests strategically, not just for money, but for influence. And focusing on life extension, that's very telling. It suggests his goals are ballooning. It's not just about wealth anymore. It's about, well, controlling time itself by living indefinitely, maybe, while keeping his grip on the chronosphere.
So the ambition shifts from just getting rich to essentially trying to master time.
That seems to be the direction, yeah.
It really paints a picture of his ambition just escalating like crazy.
Yeah.
He's not happy just being mega rich anymore. He wants, like, immortality and total control over the time machine itself.
Right.
The narrative really pushes this idea of him manipulating future markets, trade, even science,
Yeah.
building this insane financial empire across centuries.
Wow, spanning centuries.
Yeah, he becomes this shadowy figure, almost mythical, a constant presence pulling strings across millennia. Makes you think about the sheer scope of influence one person could have if they could operate across that much time.
That kind of influence over such huge timescales, it raises really fascinating questions about power itself, doesn't it?
Definitely.
We're not just talking impacting one era anymore. We're talking shaping the whole path of human civilization, generations upon generations.
Controlling resources, economies, governments, over centuries.
Yeah, it's a scenario where one person could become tangled up in the very fabric of history. It challenges our whole idea of how societies evolve and who gets to be in charge.
It certainly does. But the narrative doesn't just let him get away with it forever.
The consequences start to bite.
Big time. The story takes a major turn. It starts detailing paradoxes, distortions,
Yeah.
popping up because he keeps interfering.
So the timeline starts fighting back, in a way.
You could say that. By 3275, it's getting really unstable. Realities are shifting, even disappearing.
Disappearing, like blinking out of existence.
Yeah. It's not just small changes. It's like the fabric of time itself is fraying. The text explicitly says rulers rise who shouldn't have. Whole civilizations get destabilized, all because of his meddling. It throws up that huge question. Can you really treat time like Play-Doh, something you could just mold however you want without catastrophic results?
Like those ripples you mentioned earlier, but now they're becoming tidal waves.
Exactly. Think of it like that ripple in a pond, but it bounces off the edges and comes back, messing up everything. These inconsistencies just build up. Realities shift, vanish. It suggests time is all interconnected. Even small changes can trigger chaos everywhere.
This is where the fiction gets into, like, temporal mechanics. It's suggesting time isn't just a straight line you can tweak easily. Wren's actions aren't creating isolated changes. They're setting off cascades, interconnected disruptions.
And they don't just fade.
No, they interact, they amplify each other, leading to these unpredictable, potentially devastating outcomes. The fact that both the future he knew and the ancient world get destabilized, that really highlights how linked historical events are. Even seemingly minor tweaks can echo across huge stretches of time. It makes you think maybe history has some kind of inherent stability, or a natural flow that pushes back against being forced too much.
It really is the butterfly effect on a massive cosmic scale. And ultimately, Wren, he sees it. He realizes his relentless power grab is literally tearing time apart.
So he had a moment of clarity, or maybe just self-preservation.
Maybe both. It leads him to this really significant, maybe unexpected decision. He chooses to erase himself.
Erase himself from history. How?
He makes one last jump way into the far future. And his goal, destroy the chronosphere.
Take the tool off the board completely.
Right, to collapse all those messed up timelines he created. Prevent anyone else from trying to control history like he did.
And does it work?
The story says his name is just gone, wiped from all records. His massive empire vanishes. Poof, time supposedly snaps back to its natural flow.
So a clean slate.
Almost.
Ooh.
There's this lingering phrase at the end, kind of unsettling. A shadow in the stream of time.
Oh, cryptic.
Yeah, it subtly hints that maybe the idea is still out there. The potential for someone else to try and grab control of time hasn't entirely disappeared. So what does that ending suggest to you about, that basic human drive for power versus the stability of time itself?
Well, the ending gives us a resolution, but yeah, feels a bit uneasy. Wren's huge ambition ultimately destroys him.
Yeah.
Destroying the chronosphere, erasing himself. It implies there might be limits, hard limits to how much even the smartest, most driven person can force their will onto something as vast as time.
But the shadow.
But the shadow, right, that final image, it's incredibly thought-provoking. It speaks to how persistent that desire for power is, especially the lure of controlling something as fundamental as time. It's almost irresistible, you know? It suggests that even knowing the catastrophic consequences, the temptation to manipulate history for your own gain, it might always be there, lurking, waiting for another chance.
Makes you wonder if that desire is just part of being human, a constant potential threat to the balance of time, whatever that really means.
Could be. A constant tension.
So, wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you after digging into the Chronomancer's wealth?
Right.
We've gone through this fictional but really fascinating journey. Immense ambition, the pull of wealth and power, amplified by time travel.
And the potential for absolute disaster when you mess with history too much.
Right. Wren's path. Brilliant inventor, hungry for more, becomes this would-be master of time whose actions almost unravel reality. It definitely gives you a lot to chew on.
It's a compelling scenario.
And the text leaves us with that final lingering thought, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Even with what looks like a clean ending, the idea of controlling time, it leaves a possibility hanging there. That shadow.
That shadow remains.
What further thoughts or, I don't know, explorations might this story spark for you? Think about history, power, the nature of time itself, its resilience, or maybe its fragility.